It is an appalling spectacle. It is the image of world civilization in a breakdown crisis. And we're now up to 3 wars, as well as countless social dislocations and related crises. The 3 wars, of course, are, in order of descending importance, the Ukraine, first of all, where thermonuclear combat is never as far away as you'd like it to be, put it that way. Then you've got Syria, Iraq, now one front, thanks to the NATO-backed ISIS, owned by Saudi Arabia, by Prince Abdul Rahman Faisal, funded by Saudi Arabia and others in the Gulf, trained by U.S., British, and French instructors in a Jordanian camp. And you've also then got the Gaza, Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Let me just jump to the conclusion, which is, if you had a workable international security system built around a condominium of the United States and Russia, it would be possible to solve all of these questions in half an hour, primarily, by imposing a solution, by saying, Netanyahu, your history, Haniyeh, you're out of business, and there's going to be a solution here, and we'll tell you what it is, and you will do that, because we're not going to blow up the entire world over your stupid ideological obsessions, right? And remember, Haniyeh he's pro-Morsi and anti-Assad, so he doesn't win much credit with that kind of chicanery, right? So what we've got then is this breakdown, and then, of course, the immigration crisis of the U.S., and this, of course, simply underlines the fact that in vast parts of the world, you've now got deepening depression, a depression that's been going since 07, 08, getting worse, and you've now got a generation growing up in hopelessness, despair, no job prospects, no marriage prospects, no nothing, and those are the preconditions either for soldatesca, for rebels, as we see in many parts of the world, warlords, rebels, armed gangs, and or criminal gangs, drug running, and or mass refugee flows as world civilization collapses. I'd like to refer to an article here by Larry Summers, here in the Washington Post, Monday, July 7th, The Erosion of U.S. Leadership. Yeah, fine, Larry, but U.S. leadership can't be what you think it is. It can't be more free trade, more globalization, more bailouts, and so forth. It's got to be world economic recovery and world economic development. This is the ultimate only answer to this stuff, right? Otherwise, you're running around, going from pillar to post, trying to shut down one crisis after another. They all have a common matrix. They all grow out of this tragic world economic depression, which could also be defeated within a period of several weeks or several months with the right policies. Read Tarpley for Fed head. Tarpley for Fed head would be a good step along the way. That would start restoring U.S. world leadership there, Larry Summers. This is one of the main protagonists and designers of globalization, along with James Baker III, who came out of retirement today, this past week, to write a series of obituaries for his unfortunate friend Edward Shevardnadze. And he said the day the Cold War ended was in August 1990, when Shevardnadze joined Baker in denouncing Iraq for invading Kuwait and slapping on arms embargoes and other economic warfare measures. I'm sorry, that will not do it. But let's look at some of the details. First of all, in Iraq, Maliki is still defiant and will not quit. The U.S. argument continues to be, as I pointed out on Press TV, and you can see that item on Tarpley.net, the U.S. line is, ISIS is the end of the world. Chaos, delirium, and the collapse of everything, literally the abyss. But we won't lift a finger against them until we get rid of Maliki. and we've had all kinds of people trying to propagandize again that Allawi really got 91 seats to the 89 for Maliki, and therefore Allawi is the man. Well, he's not the man. We'll be back in a minute on World Crisis Radio. Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. The afternoon of July 11, 2014, 150 years since the last gasp offensive of the Confederacy with Jubal Early and his band at Fort Stevens. And remember that great quote from Frederick Douglass where he says, "We are always asked to give equal honor and equal admiration to those who fought to destroy this country and to those who fought to save it. Equal honor and equal admiration to those who fought to end slavery and those who fought to spread it around the world," or words to that effect. So we're not going to fall into that problem here, as I guess people know. So, Maliki defiant, ISIS at the moment stalled. Remember, ISIS is actually very few people. They come through like a wave, and behind them they leave the rule of certain tribes or other pro-terrorist, criminal, drug-running, and other elements behind them. And woe to those civilians that are there, right, because they then feel the lash of this lunatic system that ISIS represents. And, of course, the Caliph of Baghdad is actually a French comic opera from the 19th century. The composer's name is escaping me at the moment. It begins with a B, and we heard selections from this played by the Wildcat Regimental Band coming from Indiana, Pennsylvania, at the Harper's Ferry battlefield last Saturday. They played the Caliph of Baghdad. It's an opera buffa. So I think there's a certain amount of opera buffa in this current character with his Rolex watch. He reminds me of Danny Ortega, the great revolutionary with his cool shades. But now, Maliki stays in power. The Kurds boycott. The Kurds are now on secession course. This was one of the goals of the operation, to break up Iraq, to have those squabbling, impotent, petty states. If the Kurds secede, problem for Syria, problem for Turkey, problem for Iran. Concerning the problem for Iran, we've had David Ignatius gloating. Ignatius, the conduit for, what can we say, the U.S. intelligence community, the State Department, and so on, gloating in the Washington Post that ISIS is mainly bad for Iran because it brings Sunni anti-Shiite terrorists to the border of Iran, and it also threatens them with breakup as a result of the problem with the Kurds that we've just mentioned. So there we are. ISIS hurts Iran mainly, gloats Ignatius, right? So another good reason not to do anything about it, even though, of course, they're the end of the world. Gnome Chomsky has written something about this now. He's come out of his dogmatic slumbers, and he's now aware that there is such a thing as a Nuremberg indictment, which we have pointed out here on many occasions. Maybe I flatter myself, maybe he's polemicizing with me, that there is such a thing as Nuremberg indictment, that it involves international conspiracy to wage aggressive war as the top war crime that you could be accused of, Class A war criminal. But then he says, no, it's a mistake to issue Nuremberg indictments because that's not the real issue anymore. Now somehow it becomes something vague in the future and of course, Gnome wants to oppose fracking. He seems to think that fracking is the main issue in the world. Well, we're against fracking. We're in favor of modern energy production, nuclear and thermonuclear at the most modern level. Fracking, of course, a blind alley. It's a low-technology cul-de-sac. You go in there, you won't come out. It's a trap. It traps you in backward technology and deprives you of the capital you need for really modern stuff. But Gnome wants to use that as a substitute because his fundamental pessimism is oozing from every pore. So that's the Iraq situation. Now,